It has been quite the year for Cavan Scott. Long known as a staple of Star Wars literature, 2021 has shown him putting out a truly breathtaking amount of work. From the incredible The Rising Storm novel to most of his contributions to the High Republic story over in the fantastic Marvel's High Republic comic series, which is put out every month, Cavan Scott has told the story of a lot of Jedi, common people during the High Republic, and of course, dastardly villains. Tempest Runner is Cavan Scott's first foray into the audio drama format in the High Republic, and it's decidedly in the villains category. Tempest Runner tells the story of Lorna Dee, who according to the Republic is the leader of the Nile and is definitely one of its most dangerous villains. Tempest Runner plunges the High Republic into one of the fastest growing mediums in Star Wars, while giving us a brand new light on one of the most multifaceted leaders, one who we're sure to see for years to come in the High Republic. Hi everyone, I'm Nathan Emery, content creator here at Youtini, and I'll be your guide to our review of the Tempest Runner audio drama. As with all of our reviews, this one will be light on spoilers, but if you're looking to go in completely cold turkey, definitely avoid this one as we'll give away some minor spoilers about the basis of the plot, but of course no major spoilers at all. And again, our review team is composed of several expert reviewers who have gone through plenty of Star Wars books and given our reviews, our scores, our thoughts, and we use all of those thoughts to compile this video review. So this is a review from our expert team of reviewers, and the scores will all be representative of our collective opinions. Now, of course, if you disagree with any of this, or if you agree with us, be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments below. So without further ado, let's jump into the review of the Tempest Runner. Let's start with the plot. So whether it's thanks to the propensity to jump through multiple time periods or the excitement of casting the official voice for a character, the audio drama format has seen a lot of background stories of characters, and this one is no different. This one takes us through the history of Lorna Dee, what made her a leader of the Nile all the way from her days as a Twi'lek royalty. And the way the story is told is mostly through flashbacks, conversations with various characters, and we kind of piece it all together to understand who she is now. And so throughout this roughly 6-hour audio drama, if you're a one-time speed listener of course, Lorna's story comes out through a number of unlikely conversations. Given this multitude of characters, it can be a bit tricky to follow all of the characters in the story. Again, since it's only an audio drama format, you're kind of hearing all these different conversations, all these different time periods without a visual reference to go by. And a lot of these characters are brand new, which can make it just a bit difficult to follow exactly where we are in the story, exactly who the characters are and how they relate to Lorna. However, despite this slight confusion, there is one really unique aspect to this audio drama, and that's the stakes. The stakes are higher than we've ever seen in an audio drama. You know, in the past we had Dooku Jedi Lost, and of course Count Dooku's story is told all the way through to its conclusion, so we kind of know what the end is going to look like. And it's similar for Dr. Aphra, which was just a retelling of some stories that had already been told in comic format. This is the first time we're seeing a really original, ongoing story in the audio drama format. Of course, we don't know the end of Lorna Dee's story. It's still being told, which adds sort of an air of mystery as we don't know what's going to happen, who's going to stick around, you know, which alliances are going to last, and what's going to happen to Lorna Dee by the end of the High Republic. And of course, neither does Lorna. And this uncertainty helps explain Lorna's turn to the Nile and how she becomes one of the most feared leaders of that evil group. But it also helps us to really put ourselves into this drama. You know, as every moment comes into our ears, as every character's story is played out, there's a level of stakes, a level of tension we haven't felt before in audio dramas because we just don't know what comes next. Our final score for the plot was a 7.9 out of 10. Now let's jump into characters. So one of the best features of every Star Wars audio drama is its ability to bring together a full cast of characters to create something really special. Of course, the Star Wars world is full of amazingly talented voice actors who can really create a whole world on their own through Star Wars audiobooks, but the audio dramas are just on a different level as we get this kind of cacophony of different voices and sound effects and music. It really feels like we're watching something, but just with our ears. And we'll dive into the specifics of the performance a little later, but understanding the full cast of voice actors is important in understanding the way this story is able to talk about its characters. Of course, Cavan Scott is well known in the Star Wars world for his ability to create really engaging, unique, multifaceted characters, and this one's no different. Chief among these, of course, is the titular character Lorna Dee, the Tempest Runner. Now, in her role as a Tempest Runner, of course, we see a level of brutality as she supports the Nile's machinations and occasionally challenges Marchion Ro. But in this audio drama, we get to see a different aspect of her character. As we see her relationships build with the characters around her, we get to see a more vulnerable, trusting, open side, a kind of human side to this villainous character. Now, aside from Lorna's rightfully commanding presence in this audio drama, the other standout to us was actually the Jedi. Now, there aren't a ton of Jedi appearances, but the few places they do appear, they really shine. And maybe it's just because we're so used to seeing them on paper in comics and in books that hearing their voices for the first time is just a completely new experience. But still, it is truly a joy to hear the Jedi of the High Republic in this audio drama, even just for the few blips we hear on Starlight Beacon or elsewhere, and that's definitely one of the standouts aside from Lorna Dee's character. Now, as we mentioned before, just because this book goes through so many different time periods, introduces so many new characters, it can be a little difficult to follow along. And some of the characters do sound a little bit similar across the different time periods, so sometimes you have to reorient yourself a little bit, remind yourself what time period you're in to really take in the full measure of the story. That's why our final score for characters was an 8.7 out of 10. Now let's move on to originality. So since the inception of the High Republic somehow less than a year ago, the Nihil have always been presented as fearsome villains. They bring chaos and destruction wherever they go. So of course, when this audio drama was announced, there were some questions about how it was going to change the structure of the Nihil, kind of our fundamental relationship with Lorna Dee's character and what she was going to look like. And of course, there were questions about the actual story. Was it just going to be Lorna Dee's backstory? Was it going to give us relevant details about the world of the High Republic? And the answer is yes. Cavan Scott creates a beautiful world, not only in Lorna Dee's story, but also within the High Republic in general. We learn a lot more about the High Republic's inner workings, its prison system, kind of the systemic way that the High Republic works, while also seeing familiar concepts from Star Wars like the prison ship. So between the introduction of this kind of vulnerable side to Lorna Dee and all of these great concepts about the High Republic, this is actually a really original story that gives us a lot more details and a lot more insight into how the High Republic works. It kind of continues the tradition of just teaching us so much about this world, about this time period, and giving us so much new information, which we've been seeing with pretty much every release so far. And of course, like I mentioned, it introduces a completely new aspect to audio dramas where this is a continuing story, and so it's going to keep us on our toes for years to come. So our final score for originality is an 8.4 out of 10. So in our review of Cavan Scott's The Rising Storm, we talked about what a fantastic cast of characters Cavan Scott was able to create through his writing, and The Tempest Runner is no different. Cavan Scott creates a beautiful cast of characters through his writing. But as we mentioned, the standouts of the audio drama format really are the voice actors, and that's provided by 14 different voices that grace our ears over this 6-hour period. As we said before, the standout of the show is Jessica Almassy's Lorna Dee. Her vocal performance, getting to see both the kind of ruthless side of the Nihil leader and the more vulnerable side of the character of Lorna Dee, really are standout performances throughout this audio drama. But there are a bunch of other standout performances as well. Dan Bittner as Counselor Whittick, Sullivan Jones as Sala, and of course Mark Thompson as Marchion Ro and Pan Ada are just a few of the standout performances in this audio drama. And so the problem with kind of getting the characters mixed up a little bit isn't usually from, similarities between the voice actors, though there are a few of those, such as the similarity between Tasia's voice and Lorna Dee, as they're both members of the same species. Most of it just comes from the introduction of so many new characters. For example, towards the end, when kind of alliances and betrayals are becoming more important, it can take a few rewinds to remember whose voice belongs to which character. And that's just because these are new characters we're not familiar with and we don't have a visual reference. So as we hear them kind of go back and forth in our ears, we have to go back a little bit. But again, they're stellarly written characters and stellarly performed. It's just because there are so many different voices, so many different new characters, that it can be a little bit of a mix-up at times. Our final score for the writing is an 8.2 out of 10. Now let's move on to entertainment. So Star Wars audio dramas have become well known for their ability to kind of be the closest bridge between written books and what we see on screen. And Penguin Random House Publishing continues to learn with each release, as is shown by the Tempest Runner. Even though past releases have been fantastic with their use of casts, music, sound effects, this one just really rises above and beyond. It's a notable difference in the quality of space battles, the music, and battles on the prison ship. All of the sound effects are just really fantastic, and it really immerses you into this world. There was a time where I was listening to this book in my headphones, my phone was in my pocket, and I had the instinct to pull out my phone really quick because I felt like I was watching an episode of the Clone Wars or something, and I needed to be watching it. That's how immersive this world is. It's truly fantastic. And so of course a large part of the entertainment value just comes from the fantastic production of the audio drama, and then we get amazing entertainment from Cavan Scott's writing, from all the new characters that are introduced, the stories of trust and betrayal, the action-packed writing of the scenes. If anything, a testament to the entertainment of this book is that it could have been longer. We would have been happy to spend a couple more hours with these characters, get to know them a little more, have the story drag out a little more, and that's a testament to the quality of this book and just how much fun it is. We love all of Cavan Scott's writing in Star Wars. The Rising Storm, the comics, and now this book just continue to prove that Cavan Scott is both master at writing characters and delivering an entertaining story. Our score for entertainment is a 9 out of 10. It was a really fun book. So overall, the Tempest Runner just provides more fuel for the High Republic hype train to continue barreling towards the end of its first year. In the way it portrays this villain as a complex, rich, deep character instead of just a deadly bringer of chaos really causes us to think twice about the villains of the High Republic, to make sure not to underestimate them as characters or see them as one-dimensional, because this truly shows a multifaceted picture of Lorna D. And despite the occasional mix-up in who's speaking or what time period we're in, this is a really fantastically produced, written, and told audio drama. It's a really fantastic story within the High Republic. It's a great look at both the world of the High Republic and one of its most famous and most deadly villains, and we can't wait to see what comes next out of the Star Wars High Republic. So overall, our score for Cavan Scott's The Tempest Runner is an 8.4 out of 10. You don't want to miss this one. All hail the High Republic, and all hail Lorna D. Now, if you haven't gotten your copy of The Tempest Runner yet, stick around for this. So Youtini is partnered with Audible to offer you your first Star Wars audiobook completely free. That means that all you have to do is go to youtini.com/audible, sign up for a free trial of Audible, and you can get The Tempest Runner for free, no strings attached. And of course, the audio drama format is a fantastic way to listen to Star Wars, so if you've never listened to a Star Wars audiobook before, start here. There's no better place to start. Again, that's youtini.com/audible, sign up, get The Tempest Runner for free, and get to listening.